So that was after my first divorce. So now for the second one, I'm like, how the hell did I get here? So it's like, God, I did everything. I checked all the boxes, right? I was your man, 100 grand, you know what I'm saying? I'm speaking the word, I'm teaching the word, I'm, discipling others, I'm doing all these other things. Like, dude, God, I'm doing what you told me to do. How am I here?
I'm on edge, she's on edge. We're living in the same house. I got a bolt lock on my room door. I got 4 cameras inside the crib. I got 1 in the driveway, 1 in the garage. The police done came through so many times. They say next time we come through, if we have to again, both of y'all getting arrested. And it's not about it's not about physical, it's about the vindictiveness, it's about the immaturity, it's about you go from being the institution of marriage to being in the institution.
Yeah. If you hadn't heard, divorce is no joke. And I'm here to tell you from experience. And if you have heard, I'm telling you, divorce is everything that you've heard about and then some. And today we're going to be talking about divorce again. I got my boy Gauntlette, Pete Alexander from the Husband Type Podcast, man. I just want to thank you, man, for joining me. Man, you are my dog.
That's my dog. I gotta give the hand clap. Y'all give it up for when all hell breaks loose, my boy. Y'all call him Chris King. I call him C King.
Hey, there we go.
Gotta see the King.
Yeah. Hey, that's close to what they used to call me in my before Christ days. You know what I'm saying? They used to call me CK back in the day. That's close.
There we go.
I'm just one sin away from how I used to be, baby. There we go.
So good, man. Hey, thank you for having me here, bro. Appreciate you.
I'm so thankful, man, because, jumping right into it, man, we really got really, really cool. We always had that bond, but we got really, really cool when I found out we had a common bond, right? You've been divorced twice.
Yeah.
And then now I'm in that season where it's like, okay, I've been divorced once and then damn, I'm here again. You know what I'm saying? It's like here again. And so we had that bond and I needed a brother to walk with me through that, right? So that's how we got cool and we really, really grew. So you've walked with me through that process. I'm walking with you through that process.
Yes.
And just from the jump, we just hit it off. We just been cool. You've been my dog.
Yeah,
So
man.
I appreciate you, man.
Nah, I appreciate you. And then don't get it twisted. This ain't no misery loves company because we are very, very grateful for what God is doing.
Yeah.
We came together with the navigating of this process in this season because we didn't have all the information. We probably weren't even given. Let's be honest.
Right.
I don't know if we starting now. We starting now?
Yeah,
because we weren't given all the information. Like growing up, especially in our faith and our relationship with Christ. We grew up in our belief system with Christ, be it Christianity, and we went to churches.
Yeah.
Where back in the day, before the web, before Internet Explorer, all that stuff, the men that were in these ministries, we known them as respectable men of God. They didn't have all the answers though.
Yeah. And then nobody really talked about it.
There we go.
Right? We talked about it after the fact, right? After the fact. And then how we talked about it after the fact was really through gossip. Like, you know who did this? Dang, you heard he did this? Man, he left so-and-so for her. Man, I see she is banging. But you know
at the same,
it's like
right?
you had the gossip and the rumor mill, but it wasn't like talking about it like, hey man, let me come alongside you because I know you going through something. I done been there or I am there and maybe we can hold each other accountable. Because for us, it was really about growth, right? It wasn't about anything else. It was just like, look, bro, I'm here and my main focus is growing, even in the midst of the crap I'm going through. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So what that did was, what people don't even realize is that at the same time I was going through counseling. And the first thing I went to counseling, I said, you know what? I need to be more vulnerable. More vulnerable.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I have a problem with vulnerability, and not just with people, but with men too, right? Because being as a pastor, and being, doing all the different things that I've done, it's like you try and keep your circle real small. And so you're not vulnerable. So I came to you, I was like, look, bruh, hey, I'm walking through this. I see you done been through it. And for some reason, I heard your testimony. And I was like, look, I need to be vulnerable so you can hold me accountable and we can grow. And that's what it was. And I was like, look, here it is.
That part. And I know for a fact, I had So we're good men. As men, we're good brothers, great heart posture, great intention.
Yeah.
And everything doesn't always work out the way we thought or we planned. And it's not because we sabotaged or we didn't do our part. As much information as we had at those times, we used it, and we obviously governed ourselves accordingly with wise counsel and things of that nature. And it always takes two.
Yeah.
So in that space, when I wasn't at my best, I still was like, God, I still desire to be better, right? I still desire to be better, even if I didn't have the wherewithal to know exactly how to navigate each moment, because it's not instantaneous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the second divorce process was where I was like, God, I surrender everything.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I thought logically and rationally, whatever made sense, I give it all up.
Yeah.
Like, even then I prayed. It sounds wild, but I was like, Lord, you get me through this divorce unscathed, because it was some moments of challenges. I'm like, yo, I just promise to surrender and serve you, whatever that looks like, right? Yeah. So in that process, pretty much towards the end, if not, I think if I'm correct, at the end, that's where God gave me the vision for the husband type, because I still had this desire. People would be like, yo, you've been divorced twice. Why would you want to do it again?
Yeah.
And I'm like, real talk is, I know I've learned lessons and I've had to grow, but it never took away the desire to have companionship and have the right partnership.
Right.
But learning now how to become the right person and become the right partner. The work wasn't done in the past.
Yeah.
It was like glorified boyfriend with a contract energy. Mutual.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're not going to hurt me, because I think if you like me as much as I think you do, then I think I'm safe enough to like you.
Yeah.
But it wasn't stepping out and saying, you know what, let me pursue. I was like, pursue what? Women know what they want.
Yeah.
Why am I going? Why am I going? You know what I'm saying? So where me and you came through to that season, you got a chance to at least experience a moment of something I put out there that was really emotionally open. I was really vulnerable. I really just got to the point where I was like, you know what, God is revealing things to me, and he's revealing it to me. And if anything, I'm going to test the revelation. And there was a video that was put out that was a conversation of some brothers. My homeboy Stefano put it out, and I started seeing the response to it. Then I'm like, oh, there's other people, other men that's like, they like me.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that at first, man, because unlike you got, in your second divorce, you had your awakening.
Oh, right? My gosh. Yeah.
And after my first divorce, I had my awakening. Right. So I had my come to Jesus moment, struck down, cried out, God, if you save my life, I will give you my life.
You had one of those?
Yeah, literally.
Oh my God.
Right. So and I was going through divorce and rushed to the hospital, and doctor gave me grim news. Right. So I was like, man, okay. So I literally gave my life to Christ. Right. So that was after my first divorce. So now going into it, right, I had done work prior to. So now for the second one, I'm like, how the hell did I get here? Right? And so it's like, God, I did everything. I checked all the boxes, right? I was your man, 100 grand. You know what I'm saying? I'm speaking the word. I'm teaching the word. I'm, discipling others. I'm doing all these other things. Like, dude, God, I'm doing what you told me to do. How am I here? Right? So I had a different thing. So it was a come to Jesus moment after the first one, right? Because the first one, I was out there,
Yeah, you was young.
I was young.
Running.
Yes.
Running and gunning.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the second one, though, just doing my thing, father, husband, doing what I'm...
How many years in between, or what was the time span between the first and the second?
Ooh, that's a good question. So... it was probably, 7 years.
Oh, the number of completion.
Yeah.
You was done, my
I
boy.
didn't even realize that. Yeah, I didn't even, it was first time, like 7 years.
That's ample amount of time where you did the work.
Yeah.
So you come into a second marriage ready.
Yeah. Ready.
All right. So now you're in this marriage, and now you're talking to God like, okay, this is now a challenge at some point in the marriage.
Yeah.
Where did this go when you've done the work, 7 years, you're in the marriage? Did it start off pretty smooth? How was everything in the beginning?
Well, okay. So I think we were in different places. Okay. Right. So, real talk, I thought it was smooth going in. Okay. Right. But I think because there was an age gap. There was a
Got you.
significant age gap,
Got you.
right?
Got you.
So with that age gap, I was in one place, and I think the marriage sounded okay. It sounded cool, right? But I don't think, she was totally in at that point. And there were some things that we experienced that led me to believe that, right? But there were your initial bumps and bruises, you know what I'm saying? Because people think that you go through this honeymoon period. It's really not like that, right? So we had the initial bumps and bruises, but for the most part, we were good, right? We had to go through some things, miscarriage, those types of things. So those are tough things to endure as a couple, right? But, going through, we just had normal stuff, just life. Right. But overall, life was good.
Okay. Good.
Big house, money.
What?
Hold
on, y'all was in Texas.
Yeah, Texas.
The house is different.
Yeah, the house is different.
Everything
You know what I'm saying?
Texas, yeah.
Yeah. So, nice house, nice community, just life is, really, really smooth and good, right?
And you're in ministry.
Yeah, and I'm in ministry. Yeah.
Literally having your own ministry happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Pastor of a church. Yeah. Yeah. So all of that, now that's stuff that you have to deal with, when you're going through, you have to deal with. So, when you're in ministry, that's a whole nother thing, right? Because you have people pulling on you. You have you have to manage time. You have to manage the requests. You have to make sure as you're starting a family and having kids that they get the proper time. But so it's just normal life stuff. But yeah, overall, things cool.
So in the challenging, now we get into the fast forward, in the challenging seasons, what is it that you started to look to? Where did you start to go? What were you reading things? Were you talking, seeking counsel? You said at one point you were in therapy anyways, right?
Yeah, I believe, man, go get help, man. I believe in therapy, right? So a lot of times we in church, we say, pray it, just pray, right? There's that, and we're like, oh, somebody needs to be delivered. Okay, there's deliverance and all that other stuff, but then there's maintenance, right? And so therapy helps you with the maintenance, right? The everyday stuff that you get to sort through, the triggers and all that other stuff. So yeah, I was always in therapy, right? Personally. Okay. So I was in therapy personally, right? So I was in therapy personally.
For you.
All right. I was in therapy personally.
Yeah, for you. Yeah.
And so I've always believed in that, right? And it helped. But, for the most part, yeah, things were cool.
So, all right. So now we're saying there's a challenge. I know for me, when it came down to the divorce process, I did go and I did try to make it work as well. I went into therapy. We actually had counseling that was very fruitful. And at some point, I'll say this much. I remember praying about it. I filed for divorce, and I'm in the second part of divorce. So we had our first divorce. Second marriage was 10 months after we got married.
Okay.
Because immediately, I dealt with some things when it comes down to not trusting and running. We had a blended family.
Okay.
That dynamic is a lot more of a challenge than people realize.
Yeah, that's different.
Because when you're dating a woman as a man, you're dating the woman. The kids are around because I have a kid too. However, we moved in and we cohabitated. So we created another dynamic that was not a part of us just dating each other. And you have to learn that dynamic as much as you've already committed to that dynamic.
Yeah.
It's a fest. It's another word that you put in front of that fest.
Yeah.
It was bad. Right. Yeah. So I end up going and growing through this process. I filed for divorce the first 10 months because I'm like, I can't do this. The judge, she was like a Claire Huxtable judge, black lady. She was not playing. She looked at us and she's like, so y'all are trying to get a divorce for what? And I said, well, it's just not working. She's this way, I'm this way. Like something that is irreconcilable differences, right? Yeah. That lady looked at us and she said, did y'all go to counseling? I was like, no, ma'am. All right. Yeah, so y'all had some issues. Okay. Well, that's everybody's marriage.
Yeah.
She said, y'all been married for how long? We said 10 months. She said, look, I'm not granting this. Y'all go and get some lunch and y'all go talk about this. Yeah. And what do you think we did? We left out, went out and sat down and had some food. And we had a moment where we had to really be accountable. And I from that moment though, I realized.
Told y'all about y'all stuff.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Fix it. Figure it out. So we went back out and we went back in the world, the covenant world. And then COVID hit.
Okay.
So we made it through COVID. It was smooth because that was everybody's kickback and barbecues and nobody had to really do much. So I think that was fine. Somewhere 2021, life started happening again.
Yeah.
Routine started coming back in, and we didn't do the work.
Yeah.
We just went back in.
Man. See, it all takes work. You know what I'm saying? And you mentioned earlier that, okay, you're a good guy, I'm a good guy.
For sure.
And, that's cool, right? But being a good guy is a process.
There we go.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people just want it just right out the gate. I want a good man. I want a good woman. And that's really, it's not that hard to find a good person, because ultimately that's just a good natured person. But somebody that can take their good heart, right? The essence of their good heart, and apply it to others and give it to others, and learn and stay committed throughout thick and thin and all of that. That takes work, right? That takes process. It takes a lifelong process to become a good man or a good woman, right?
Yeah.
And I always talk about, I don't want to just be a good man. I don't want just a good woman, right? I want a godly woman.
Let's go, Sid.
Because I'm a godly man. Because that speaks to commitment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It speaks to covenant. See, covenant says that I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, even if you don't do what you're supposed to do. And so this second time around, I was a godly man. First time around, I was a good man, but still had desires of the streets.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See, a good man ain't necessarily a godly man, right? And a godly man is a good man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting here, I was a godly man, my second marriage. So for me to have to go through divorce, I'm like, let's just be real. I'm like, this is how I was talking. Damn, God.
Yeah.
How are we here again?
So take us through. All right, give us more. And I believe I interrupted you earlier. Now you're in your second marriage. Like, navigate us. Give us where things were going and where it went left.
Life happens, right? So you go through the ebbs and flows of life, financial highs, financial lows, right? You go through that. Me, I've always been one to bounce back, right? I'm like the bounce back king, and I always bounce back higher. You know what I'm saying? So I've had lots of money. Like, I've been jumping in hundreds of thousands of dollars cash before, and I've been homeless before. You know what I'm saying? So I always bounce back. So we went through some financial difficulty, right? And in the grand scheme of things, when you look at it, it was difficult for us, but it was first world problems. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you can't take your big trip where you want to go type thing. You know what I'm saying? It was first world problems, right? Rich people problems. You know what I'm saying?
That part.
So, it wasn't like really poor people problems, right? So, but when you look at it, so we go through, and to make a long story short, we bought our house, and really, I tell people the most powerful thing you can do is change your mind. And flat out, she just changed her mind.
How did I? So now you're hearing the mindset that's been changed. What's the first response? What's the first processing part of this?
So and when I say change your mind, it's just like, okay, people use examples of, like, imagine your spouse coming home and just saying, I don't want to do this no more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And in a nutshell, without going through all the specifics and, how somebody said it or whatever, or when somebody said it, that was in a nutshell what happened. Hey, I don't want to do this no more. Right. I don't want to be married no more. Right.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was, okay, well, all right, maybe it's something going on. Right. And when I'm like something emotionally, mentally, maybe there's stressors or whatever, maybe the expectations of new home and transitioning, maybe that's getting to you. So
What about ministry too? Do you think ministry could have also been?
Well, yeah.
Because you're called to now do more and help spread more of the gospel, and you're helping to disciple.
Yeah.
And not
So
everybody can carry that.
That's a tough load.
You see what I'm saying?
Right? Yeah,
Not
that's a tough load.
Even as a wife.
Yeah. See, a lot of people think they think about the glitz and the glamour
That
of it,
part.
right? They think about, hey, I want to be on stage too, right? But on stage comes with, heavy is the head that weighs the crown. You know what I'm saying? That wears the crown, right? So when you're on stage and in the limelight, you got more people picking at you. You got more expectations. You got more people that want to say, hey, want to hang out with you that you really don't want to hang out with. You got all these different things. You have expectations to be held accountable, right? To do things that you don't want to do.
Can't do things you used to do.
Can't do things you used to do. And then when you see other people doing things that sort of look like things that might be fun, because man, out there in social, man, it looks fun, bro. It looks fun. You know what I'm saying? But we don't realize as we're looking, how many takes did it take to get that picture? How many takes did it take to get that video? How, we don't realize how staged this is. We don't realize, fool, that ain't your house. That ain't your car. You broke. You can't pay your bill. You just asked me for rent money last week. You know what I'm saying? We don't realize that stuff. But, it's theater of the mind, right? And so that weighs too. So it looks fun.
So we're not saying that is. We're talking about when someone is able to change their mind.
Yes.
There's things that need to be considered based off the fact that you can't be that individual. You're only receiving what's being spoken. So now you have to process. All right. So I don't know what to do with what you are deciding to do.
Yeah.
Now that's a challenging place to be in.
That's a challenging place to be in. So it's like, how do I process what you're just giving me? Right. And as a man, I'm thinking about how do I make sense of it?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
This don't make sense.
Solution oriented. Yeah. That's what men are.
Yeah.
Let's fix
where's this coming from?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Where are your input signals coming from? How do I cut off the negative input signals? How do I get you, the help? Maybe it's just a phase. Maybe it's just, something that you're going through, so trying to figure it out. And, when all hell breaks loose, man, for a leader, life don't stop. You're still called to be a husband. You're still called to be a father. You're still called to be a leader in the community. You're still called to keep on going, right? So having to deal with that and like, okay, I'm trying to fix this, but all this other stuff, all right, kids, take the kids to school, take the kids, pay this, do that, all that. So you're having those discussions, trying to figure it out. And it's tough, right? So I'm trying to figure it out. All I knew at the time was fight. Not fight her, fight for it.
That's it.
Fight for it. Because again, a godly man, right, will sit here and realize this is a spiritual attack.
And that's what you were talking about earlier. God, what the hell? Like when all hell breaks loose, like God, why? I did the work. 7 years. We're here. Yeah. Why now?
Yeah. So when me and you came together, what were we talking? We talking about spiritual attack.
Period.
How do we sit here and fight spiritually? So I'm sitting here fighting spiritually and trying to give the support how I know best, right, to support my family and at the time my wife, so that's what I did. I fought for it. I mean, bro,
I remember telling you,
I
told you, because I remember I shared I was like, bro, there's certain things that I know I could have, should have, didn't. I got to do it. I said, bro, you were like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm doing everything I can. And all I can do is continue to encourage you. Because I said, listen, honestly, I'm almost living vicariously through you based off of what you're doing. Bro, you went back in the ring, not even having any form of issues, just trying to figure out how to solve what needs to be solved. Yeah. And I told you through the process, like, I'm proud of you, man. Because the work that you were doing, the humility that it took, the sacrifice that you had to make and continue to make on top of what you already made was just saying, you know what, whatever it takes. And I can look y'all in the face on this camera. My dog did the work. And that's when I can be accountable for telling you what I didn't do. I know a man, and that's a man who did the work. So I'm curious, continue, but I know you went back in the ring and you didn't even go looking for a fight. You looked for a fix. Yeah. And you're like, God, what's this?
Yeah. So I surrounded myself around a certain group of people, right? I cut off everything, right? I cut off social media. I was like, I'm not going to be out here because I don't need that feeding me, right? I don't need whatever. I didn't even if it was right, I didn't even want to take the chance of it being right. So I had a criteria. My criteria was, these are the people that I will bring into my circle. And I prayed about it. I said, God, who do I need to put in my circle? Here is the criteria. Number one, they have to be personally or professionally qualified. Okay. Personally qualified is somebody that has gone through it and overcome it. Okay. Professionally qualified is somebody that is ordained or licensed to speak to you in this situation. Pastor, counselor, and even an attorney, right?
Yeah.
But when I went to in talking to attorneys, I told them, I said, I'm not ready yet. I want to fight for this. And that's what I told them. And they said, go ahead, right? Personally, professionally qualified. The second thing I had to see was somebody that was spiritually mature. That means that I have seen them have fruit in their life, right? Meaning that they are walking the walk that they talk. And they have people that they are mentoring, discipling, that I have seen that they physically have the fruit in their life. So that means I can't have somebody that I don't have personal relationship with, right? The third thing was, well, when they're spiritually mature, they also will speak the word of God.
There we go.
Right? It had to line up with the word of God, right? So when I say the word of God, it had to line up with the love of God, the mind of God. It had to give me hope and faith and actually empower me to walk this thing out no matter how hard it was. And they had to be personally vested.
Let's go.
Right? Meaning that they were willing to give up their time on a regular basis and put something on the line for my success in this particular area. So I'm giving just points on how to navigate your circle and create your network when hell is breaking loose, right? So, and then as they were personally vested, they say, okay, I'm gonna walk with you. And they had to be proven. They had to be proven. And then they had to be okay with the job that I gave them. I gave everybody a job. I said, Pete, when I call you, hey, let's get together. We need to talk about this.
You 100%
right?
did. Yep.
When I call you, this is what I want you to talk about.
Yep.
I called somebody and said, hey, I want you, this is what I'm going through. When I call you, I need you to tell me a joke. Make me laugh. That's your whole job. You my court jester.
Listen.
That's it.
And that's that relationship. That's the friendship.
The relationship.
You have. It's not, it's literally,
right?
that's
because now I'm holding them accountable to their job because now they can hold me accountable to walking this thing out.
It's not one way. I love it. It's not one way. Yep.
So that was my criteria. And I didn't put anybody in my circle that did not meet that criteria.
Yo. So I'm hearing clearly. So when I think of divorce, and I've been through it, I'm thinking a lot of times immediately we're thinking about it not working because there's something the man did. Easily. The court system set up to make sure that the men pay. Right? So I'm hearing you, and you're one of the few, like a brother, period, that I've seen do the work, heard, we had conversations, and all of a sudden you still end up where I felt you didn't have to end up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm hearing you for the first time talk about something that turns out to be very unique and different for me because you fought.
Yeah.
And not only did you have to fight, you had to realize too when to fall back and allow for even your partner at the time to get whatever she's needing with you supporting.
Yeah.
And we still end up counseling, wise counsel, personal counseling, all the criteria you named, everybody's in space and position. As a man of God, still leading. We still end up here.
Yeah. And the toughest thing to deal with, there were two things that I had to deal with. It was the shame and the rejection.
So where the shame, where the shame come from? Where you feeling shame?
The shame was from the fact that, one, I was like, damn, I'm going through this again.
Got you.
Right? It's like the shame of perceived failure, right? The shame came from what I thought other people would say, right? And then the shame of the fact that I'm supposed to be a man of God, helping people in their marriages, and I'm getting up on the stage and talking about, hey man, when your marriage is on the rocks, do this, blah blah blah. I'm that dude, right? So it's like the shame of that, you know what I'm saying? And then the rejection of saying, and this was my theme. I never wavered on my theme. I love my wife. I want my marriage. How many times did you hear me say that?
Bro, that's all you did. That's all. First of all, let's be clear. We didn't say that a divorce ended on your terms.
Yeah. Right. So with that, to have somebody say, look, I don't want to be married to you anymore.
It's different,
right?
yo.
And you can't, and the real tough thing is, like, if I was right there, let me just be real. Let's just talk like we talk. Right? If I was out there slapping hoes on the butt, you know what I'm saying, making it rain, you know what I'm saying, I'm like, okay, I can understand.
That, yeah.
But that wasn't me. Right?
Yeah, man.
I'm not the dude on OnlyFans. I've never been out there.
No.
Right? I'm not the dude, I'm not that dude. So I couldn't tie it to a cause. So I couldn't fix it. I couldn't rationalize it. And then now I'm being told, I don't want you. Why are you holding on to something that
hold on. Don't skate.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't skate past that. Hold on. See, that phrase right there?
Yeah.
It made my skin crawl.
Yeah.
That I don't want you.
Yeah.
The ego and pride that is attached to me as a man, to be told that.
That's the tough part, right? The rejection, right? So again, we just talking. This just my story.
I'm with you.
So to have to go through that, it's like, dang, you start feeling like I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Why ain't I good enough? And real talk, I'm like, I'm Chris King. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, I'm a good dude. I'm a godly man. Why ain't I good enough?
But see, we as men do not talk about that.
Yeah.
When's the last time you hear one of your homeboys really say in a very emotionally open way, yo, my lady said I don't want you.
Yeah.
Bro, we were once a boy. We came from a woman.
Mm-hmm.
We once want, and we do tend to love and desire nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
When someone rejects you in the space of being a grown man after you've put in that much equity, sweat equity, that much investment, that much of your heart posture is going towards fighting for your marriage, and you hear, I don't want you.
Yeah, that's
you
the
know
tough
how many
thing,
men will lose it if they're not rooted in what their faith is in Christ.
And so that's the thing, man, that I want people to understand, no matter man or woman, right? Because we all have to deal with rejection, right? So one of the things that I had to do, so for people that's out there that's going through divorce, on some level, right, somebody's experiencing some rejection, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's blatant, whether it's implied, right? So when going through that, I want to make sure that people understand that, you really, one of the things that I had to do was, a lot of times people tend to do affirmations,
mm-hmm.
right? And what you tell yourself is important, right? What you tell yourself is important. And so I had to really build myself back up. I had to build myself up. I had to stop looking at myself through her eyes.
Yeah.
And I had to look at myself through God's eyes. And I had to go through to the very beginning of when I started doing the work, those first 7 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had to say, okay, who am I? All right. I am, and it's on my mirror to this day. Every morning I say this, and I pray to God, thank you, God, I'm committed to my call and my purpose. Thank you, God, that I am your beloved. Thank you, God, that I am a great man of God. I'm a great husband. I'm a great father. I am a great friend. Thank you, God, for my amazing kids. Thank you, God, for my loving wife. Because even if I don't have it right now, I know you're blessing me with it. Thank you, God, for my committed, all of these things. And then it's not just the things you tell yourself. One of the things I had to do is I had to ask myself certain questions. So along with that, I asked myself certain questions, because now I'm dealing with rejection. I don't want to sink into depression. Mm. So I'm asking myself every single morning, Chris, what are you happy about right now? Chris, what are you excited about? Chris, what are you proud of? Chris, what are you committed to? Chris, who do you love? Chris, who loves you? Chris, how do you feel about it? And my thing is, I cannot answer the same question with the same answer in 2 consecutive days.
Yeah.
So I ask myself that in the morning, because it forces me to go throughout the day to look for different answers. So now I'm not thinking about the rejection. I'm thinking about being honest with myself. I'm building up rapport with myself, and I'm trusting myself. See, this is a part of the work. Right? So I'm building up a rapport with myself, and I'm saying, okay, Chris, what am I happy about? So now I'm going to ask myself next morning, now I can speak to what I'm happy about, what happened today. What am I excited about? What happened today? What am I excited? So tomorrow I'm going to ask myself that again, and I'm going to look for new experiences to build myself up. This is a work.
So the work. All right, this is good. Now we're gonna move. I found some solace and some revelation that you've been speaking in, and I believe Holy Spirit's imparting some things. So now, all right, we 0-2.
Yeah.
Lessons learned.
Yeah.
We not striking out.
Yeah.
Third time's a charm. Cool. I noticed you said you did the work from the first.
Yeah.
Going into the second, right? I didn't do the work from the first. I was single.
Mm-hmm.
I was out here from the first to the second. I started to do the work now from the second to the third. Mm. So even with the work being done, it doesn't mean that it's indicative to everything being successful from like the first to the second, right? Right. What I do notice now, I don't know if you can echo it or if you feel the same, but I'll say this much. In this season that I've grown into, I've noticed that in reading the word, definitely a man that finds a wife finds a good thing and receives favor. We know that. Boom. Right. However, God created Adam, and in relationship with what God had with Adam, Adam was full with his relationship with God, right? It was vertical. He was not in need of anything. He didn't even know. You can't miss what you never had. Right. He didn't even know he was missing anything. God is like, you know what? Within the relationship that I have with you is beautiful. Spiritually, it's connected. You're my guy. But where you are, you're incomplete. Yeah. You need another partner. Mm-hmm. So then he created Eve, presented Eve. But before he made Eve for Adam, he gave Adam work. Mm-hmm. He had a responsibility. Yep. There was a vision. He had things to tend to. Now you have a helper suitable. Mm-hmm. Are you noticing in this season that are you looking now to see that, okay, you're doing the work, therapy, all this stuff, you've done the work, you're still doing the work. That's work in progress, right? During this process, you have the vision in which God is giving you. You're still ministering. You're still reaching the people. You have the podcast. You basically have a lot of work. Yeah. Is it important to now see that as we're moving forward and we're growing and God is doing an amazing work in you and in me, that we find or we ask God for a helper that's suitable for where we are versus how we could have picked and chose in the beginning? That's
a good question. First off, I'm not asking God for a helper that's suitable.
Let's go.
For where he's taking me. I'm thanking him for the helper that he's already created for me.
Tell him.
Right.
That's good.
That's why I say it every morning. I say, thank you for my loving wife. Thank you for a loving marriage. Thank you for a committed wife. Right. And so I'm already thanking him in advance because I know it's already there. So that means I still have work to do and I will continue to have work. Now, I also have to change my perspective a little bit because when people leave divorce, there are a couple of things that happen. The first thing that divorce teaches you is how to make a quick exit. Right. So what I mean by that is when somebody comes, you have all the traumatic experiences that you've gone through. You're looking at what somebody else did through the eyes of the pain and the rejection, and everything else. So when somebody else comes, she may do something similar and you're like, oh no, I'm out of here. Right. So I have to have God deal with that. Right. And deal with that mindset. Now, some things that you'll experience, you won't know that you need to work on until you get into another relationship. 100%. Right. So I asked God to work on that. Then on top of that, I changed my mindset about it because a lot of times the second thing that people do a lot of when they go through divorce is, oh, I ain't doing that again. Right. See, we run away from pain and run to what's pleasurable. Since it's painful, we run away from it. So a lot of people, oh, hell no, I ain't getting married again. Oh, no, I ain't doing that. Right. And so I said, God, all right, this is something that's ordained by you. Right. And I had to think about it in a godly way, because I said, I am a godly man. So now I need godly perspective. So I said, okay, God, you created the woman not because Adam needed to receive love. You created the woman because Adam needed to give it. He was already in proximity with God. God is love. I don't need something I'm getting a constant dose of, but I do need to give it. So that's why God created. He needed somebody to love. So I said, God, help my heart. Please don't harden my heart to the process and what you have ordained so that it can make me complete in my purpose of giving love, which is why he says, love your wife like Christ loved the church. It's a need. It's necessary for us to be able to fulfill our mandate.
As men.
Right. So I said, God, heal my heart so that I don't have that perspective anymore. And you know what happened? When you asked me, how do I feel? I said, you know what? I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to love in that way. And I'm not jaded by marriage. Now I'm looking for I'm expectant. So I'm already thanking God for what he's blessed me with in the loving, committed, mature wife that he has for me to go on to the next level.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%. It's expecting faith.
Yeah.
You're like, your faith is, I know this is, and that's another thing too. People can say, okay, Paul, Christ, they didn't have, everybody's not called to that. But when
Yeah.
you weren't meant to be alone.
Yeah.
It's not because you're a lone leaf. There's that complete difference, right?
Yeah.
The physical state of not having that partner while you have this work to be done, you have this love to give, this assignment to complete. You know what God's put on your life. So I'm glad that you do. I mean, honestly, I'm not surprised. You're my dog. I'm not surprised that you think that way. But there's a lot of men who just think, I have not because I ask not.
Yeah.
Right. And they're asking God for. And the truth is, even if you're asking God for, what work are you doing? Mm-hmm. How are you
start working? And same for women. Do the work. If you want determine first off whether or not you want a godly husband or a good husband. Right? We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Determine that. And if you want a godly husband, you got to do the work because he'll find you. Right? You do the work. The godly man needs to do the work. Don't sit here and wait, twiddle your thumbs. So the woman that is next for me, you know what I'll find her doing? Work. So I don't have to go out here. I'm not on the apps. I'm not doing I don't have to do all of that because I know as long as I'm working, doing what I'm supposed to do, and she's working, God is going to bring us together for his divine purposes, which is to glorify his kingdom because we're already doing it. Get with the program. Start doing what you're supposed to do. Stop crying about it, right? And I know it's easier said than done, but I'm telling you from experience. Yeah, I had my cry moments, right? I had my scream moments. I had my cussing moments. But after all that is said and done, I got to work, bro.
Yeah, tell them what. The phrase will be, stop lurking and get to working, baby.
Get to working.
Everybody's looking around, ain't doing nothing to take care of what they got. It's in front of them. That's who they are. That's in them. I'm realizing, man, that's the best time where God gets the best from us is when we're focused on what we need to be focused on, which is him. Yeah. And we're doing the work that he's given us, which is maybe in our hands right in front of us. And then, like you said, the connection comes together. Yeah. So all of this now, how are you feeling on today? Like, you've gone through a season where hell broke loose, like wildly broke loose. You're here now. How is Chris King feeling on today in this season?
Man, I feel hopeful. I feel energetic. I feel excited. I feel blessed, man, because I'm thankful. It's odd, man. It's really, I can't explain this. This part I just can't explain. It's odd that I am thankful that this happened for me and not to me. Because now, see, it's when you have the weight, and I don't fault her, right? Again, the most powerful thing you can do is change your mind. If you've changed your mind, that's okay. But you can't go. You can't go on this flight because you've changed your mind, right? I can't take off with the weight of that. Right. So I'm thankful that it came out now. Right. As opposed to me being up here. And then I'm overjoyed, man, because through leaning into the circumstance, it's like, man, other people going to be blessed. A lot of dudes, we talk to them and it's like, hey, man, dude, my wife, did the same thing, just up and said she ain't want to be married no more. And kids, everything. I mean, yeah, they go through the same thing. I've met so many men. They're going through the same thing. Women too, right? We talk about the women often. We don't talk about the men, right? Yeah. But we talk about the women and, women, hey, husbands, just bounce.
Now, let me ask a question. This might be a little tricky. This is probably going to be for those who are even wondering if there's anything in the form of accountability that you can look at when it comes to you. What would you say you learned in this last season that helps you, because at least give you the space of saying, okay, I can be more accountable when it comes to this?
That's an excellent question, man. Because if you know me, the first person I look at is me.
For sure.
So when I tell people, being a former athlete, I don't have a problem looking at me because after every game, we looked at game film. All your mistakes were right there in front of you. Yeah. So one of the first things, and that's why I went to my counselor, I said, hey, I need to learn how to be more vulnerable. Okay. I had a problem with vulnerability. Still have a problem with vulnerability, but I'm working through it. Gotcha. Right? It's an area of development for me. Another thing is just sheer communication, right? Learning how to communicate, right? Effectively. Everybody has different communication styles, and, being able to listen and really, really, really do that. And then also giving grace, man. Learning how to give grace, man. One of the things that I struggled with was, one, giving grace to myself and receiving God's grace. So therefore I had a problem with giving it to others. So being able to give grace and be like, okay, that's you struggling with that. I'm struggling with this, and let's come together. Let's work it out. Those types of things. So those are some things that I definitely need and have been working on, right? And could be held accountable. And when I say communication from a standpoint of marriage, we're talking about communication from communicating about finance and making decisions and incorporating that, setting an overall vision and really communicating that, and, holding the family accountable to it. So all those different things, right? And allowing, here's the big thing I learned, how to allow God to work through your woman to be exactly who she's called to be. See, there's so much strength in that. And for me, there was an age gap. There was experience gap. There was the pastoral aspect. And so with all of that, you start reading your own press releases, right? Thinking that, okay, I'm the man, I got to do X, Y, Z. And you don't necessarily lean on her to leverage her gifts. And that helps her grow, but it also helps both of you grow. And so I could have done a better job. I'm not saying I never did any of that, right? Bro. I'm just saying I could have done a better job at that, right? So no, nobody's innocent, right? Nobody's completely innocent, when it comes to divorce, right? We all have a part to play in it. But I've sat down and I've really examined myself and say, here are the things I need to work on before my next relationship. And there's some others too.
I think what you just said at the end it unlocked for me, I think it unlocked for a lot of men, is I heard John Bevere talk about that same space with his wife Lisa on their podcast, where he spoke on, I think that's something you learn in marriage, but you also learn in your relationship with the Father, where you learn as men not to carry the weight of everything, and notice what God is giving your wife to be able to literally help complete those. I heard it best. One of my homegirls was telling me, she said, a wise man, and especially as a husband, knows how to let his wife be at least direct. Right? There's a direction that still happens with the decision of that man. Yeah. A wise, a Proverbs 31, P31 type woman would definitely give you insight. I heard Eric Thomas talk about it. He always talks about Didi. Yeah. As much as he's making $200,000 a speaking engagement, he still looks for the wisdom of his wife. Yeah. Right? So even the king needs a queen on the chessboard. The queen protects. Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
There's wisdom in that woman.
And that's the form in which men, we have to understand that gem, yo. That is a game changer. And it doesn't
take away from your role or your importance, right? It doesn't take away from who you are and who you're supposed to be, right? Early on, so in my second, we were married for 12 years. Yeah, 12 years. So early on, I'm thinking, okay, I got to be the man, and I don't want,
whatever that looks like.
Yeah. But as time went on, I'm like, that's a part of being the man, recognizing the gifts and the strength in other people and allowing them to help along the way, right? And that didn't take away from me being the man. That actually made me more the man. You know what I'm saying? So I learned that, right? I wish I learned it, sooner.
I ain't learned the past two. I
learned that bad boy now. What?
Trust me. What you want? What do you feel? Yeah. How do you feel? Yeah. What do you think? That definitely helps, because that's a cheat code.
You know what I'm saying? So ladies, if you hear that, man, I didn't learn that. So you can call me at 555-1212.
Hey, don't give out all the numbers, bro. Give out 7, leave 3. My dog about to give out the whole number. 555. Nah, man, that's powerful, bro. So in this whole journey now, we're saying, like, it's safe enough to say that this won't be a challenge, meaning we won't be in these positions of divorce anymore. We're committed to covenant. We're not just getting into the idea of marriage, right? We're committed to covenant. There's work that's been done. There's work that's still being done. And we are not afraid of stepping into what God has blessed, because there is a favor that comes with it. And I ain't gonna lie, I don't like the single life. I'm cool. That's training grounds right now.
Yeah. Now, I do want to just let people know, right, in regards to my situation, because the question can be asked like, well, if you're a godly man, you love your wife like Christ loved the church. Yeah. When did you give up?
You didn't give. You already spoke on that. Well, go ahead and reiterate it.
I'll reiterate that. I fought.
You did. Yeah,
I fought. However, there was a point when I said, okay, I will release her. And I did that after through much prayer, and through it was painfully obvious that was.
And you missing something, bro. Listen, I'm gonna stop you. I ain't gonna let you jump off the cliff yet. You also had wise counsel. You went through a plethora of avenues. Not just professional therapy, spiritual counsel with her being there. Right? No, I'm saying you about to jump off the cliff with no parachute, bro.
No. Right. I got you. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, all day.
But I want to let people know that there may come a time, right? There may come a time where you do have to let somebody go, right? And you go through all those steps, right? You fight.
Exhausting every
option.
And
so that you can leave with your head held high and say, I left it all on the field, right? And so I do want people to know that there may be a time that you do have to let somebody go. And, you know, if that time comes, this is how you get through that.
That's
right?
good.
And this is how you make the decision. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I went through tons of spiritual counsel. I went through tons of professional counsel. I went through trying and, doing all kinds of other things, right? So, but absolutely. But there may come a time where that happens.
So your side is beautifully said and it's beautifully understood. My side, I literally gave up in the beginning and then I tried to recover. So there is a time where a woman, if the man was like, I wasn't a good steward, she got burnt out.
Yeah.
By the time we ended in counseling. And that was clearly going to be our last session. And it was definitely spoken in that session that we weren't going to continue. This was after the first divorce. This was going into the second attempt.
So let me ask you this.
I'm supposed to be asking you the question.
I know, but I'm going to get you. Because you let me say this and you didn't chime in. All right. I talked about times where I cried. Right. I screamed, I cussed. I literally boo-hoo. Were there moments that you cried?
Oh man, what you mean? What?
Yeah.
Oh my
Tell
God.
me about let me what happened and what was that like and what was the result of it? Because like sometimes we just need just to let it out. And then sometimes that marks the beginning of something powerful, monumental, whether it's recovery, whether it's bounce back, or whether it's, whatever. So what was that moment like for you when you just like cried?
Well, I think I got really the good cry took place at the very end, bro. When I saw like the final order. And because it's like adrenaline. It's the most backwards way of getting adrenaline.
Yeah.
Like you're going through, it's fight or flight. You're literally, I'm on edge. She's on edge. We're living in the same house. I got a bolt lock on my room door. I got 4 cameras inside the crib. I got one in the driveway, one in the garage. The police done came through so many times. They say next time we come through, if we have to again, we both of y'all getting arrested. And it's not about just being, it's not about physical. It's about the vindictiveness. It's about the immaturity. It's about, you go from being the institution of marriage to being in the institution. Yeah. Like we living like that for 10 months. So I think I went through that whole, shoot, bro, it was so savage. I went through that whole season, like 10, 11, almost a year. And at the end, when she finally left, house is empty. You feel me? I got the house. Like the fight was, I'm keeping the house, but now I'm paying more for the house.
Yeah, yeah.
She got the money.
Yeah.
I don't see no money.
Yeah.
So it's so like not together, it's so lopsided. And it's quiet in the house. And like my mom used to come and stay with me during the divorce process. My sister, she's a lawyer. She used to come stay with me during the divorce process. So I had women that were with me on the battle lines in the same space where I lived with the soon to be divorced woman as much as I'm going to be a divorced man, and they're protecting me as a woman.
Yeah.
They're giving me game. It's the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like a woman that's my mom and my sister, specifically my sister, is giving me game on how to move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being given legal, like I can't be stubbornly litigious. I'm like, I'm going through the most reverse weird way of being schooled about something that I put myself in. I didn't steward right. I was trashing it.
Mm-hmm.
Had a great heart posture, but didn't know how to manage what it is that was needing to be led by obviously me submitting to Christ.
Yeah.
I took the wheel, ran it right off the edge, right? So now I'm having all that's done. Adrenaline's gone. I'm by myself. Now what? Silence. And I'm sitting there just, all I could do was cry. I cried until at some point you can't cry 24 hours straight. So I stopped. Then I started getting into the word. And I made that pact with God, because then I knew that during the divorce process, I said, God, you get me out of this unscathed, I promise to serve you. So I was left with that covenant. The old covenant that was busted.
Yeah.
Now it's me and God. This covenant got to be the one that sets the tone for the next covenant. So now I got to really have a relationship that I never had with God, because he kept his part. She got out. They tried to, the lawyer wanted me to sell the house. So we would have just been both out of luck. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna keep mine. I got the house right before I got married, but she fought for it as marital property. Cool. Right. Take what you got to take. Now the covenant that matters is me and God, bro. So I'm talking about, I got into Kenneth Hagin books. I'm reading the word, and I believe that's literally where God, condemnation. I was hard on myself, didn't give myself grace, had to learn what it looked like to give myself grace, to be forgiven of myself. As much as I wanted to be able to move forward, I can't move forward if I'm condemning myself.
Right.
God bestowed his love on me during that time. He gave me the vision of husband type. Maybe like about between 2 to 4 months later, I got the vision of husband type. And that literally has been a form of therapy. It's the ashes being turned into beauty.
Yeah, man.
You feel me? Yeah. It's me understanding like, oh, I really jumped in covenant through cohabitation. Both times I bought into the lie of living together with kids, because it's like you already a family. Yeah. And then you go from that cohabitation into the courthouse. So I did it both times, 2 different women, 2 different scenarios, but the same process. Okay, can't cohabitate no more. Yeah. Can't go from that to the courthouse no more. Never did premarital counseling, never proposed, like never did any of that stuff. And folks like, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do everything that we didn't do. The things you did do, just leave that. Don't do those anymore. So process of elimination was crazy. But my crying process happened heavily at the end, and God did something magically beautiful for my heart, man. Like miraculously beautiful for my heart, not magically, because ultimately when I tell you, I didn't know what was going to come of it. All I knew was, okay, I have a house. I got a roof over my head. It's more expensive.
So it's just you and God.
Just me and God. What are we going to do now?
And your cry was basically a realization, sitting in silence, a realization that, okay, God, I'm here. And realizing that you had something to do with that.
What? Bro, you know how hard that is?
It's like, God, I don't want to be here no more. You know what I'm saying?
Come to the end of yourself.
And that's the big thing, right? It's like at some point we have to realize, look, all right, 0 for 2.
I don't like this version.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
0 for 2.
0 for 2.
All right. But you know what? It ain't over. I still get more bats at the plate. And God, there's so much that I've learned. You made me into so much more than what I used to be. And so now, God, I welcome whatever change you got to do in me to make me who you want me to be and who you've called me to be. Right now, God, as I do that work, I'm crying out to you, of course, in expectation to bless me, who's going to be on that ride with me as you take me to that next level. But it's all
beautifully said. Beautifully said.
I can't repeat it because that was just off the top of the dome.
Beautifully said.
You know what I'm saying?
That's it. And I hope it resonates for any men who are watching this, whether you've done and fought to the end, whether you didn't fight the good fight throughout, but you realize that you have to get back up. Yeah. Wounds and all, but God is the healer. He's a redeemer. He's a restorer. Whatever side it's on, as men, we have an opportunity to get back in the game, to get back at bat, if that's what you desire and if that's what God has purposed on your life, to be able to carry that out with a partner. So I'm blessed, man.
So, man, as we wrap up, man, I really want to encourage, I want to thank you, but I want to encourage people that have been divorced, going through it now, that one, it's not over, right? Take it from somebody that's twice divorced. Okay. Marriage is a beautiful thing. It's an honorable thing. I still believe in it. And I'm so thankful and grateful that I've had the opportunity to love in that way. Because I want to encourage people and let people know, because once you accept the love of God and accept his grace, there's no other love like it. No matter what happens, you can get through it. You're going to get through it. And I hope today blessed you with some tips on how to deal with the rejection, how to get through divorce, how to have better outlook, and how to do the work. Because I'm telling you, it is worth it. I feel hopeful. Hopefully you do too, Pete. I know you feel hopeful.
Of course.
I'm excited for my life, your life, and your life that's watching, and what God has to come. So I just want to encourage you all to definitely check us out on the When All Hell Breaks Loose podcast. I'm your boy, Chris King. Check us out on all the social channels. Go like, subscribe on YouTube, everywhere else where you can stream your podcast, When All Hell Breaks Loose podcast. Go out to wahblpodcast.com or WAHBL podcast on all of the social media channels, and just come check us out. Tell us what you are going through, and we want to walk with you through this process as well, because we want to see people blessed. We want to see people restored, and we want to see thriving marriages, because it is possible. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that I'll be there, you'll be there, and they'll be there too. So I want to thank y'all, and I just want to just encourage y'all, share this, like it, share it with your friends, neighbors, even tell your enemies, but tell them with love to come check us out on the When All Hell Breaks Loose podcast. Hey, Pete, man, thanks so much for joining us, man. Let the people know where they can find you.
See, thanks for having me. You guys can follow me on the YouTube at THT Conversations, as well as on the Instagram at the Husband Type Conversations. Appreciate you,
man. Appreciate you, man. And for those out there, again, go tell your friends, tell your neighbors, even tell your enemies, but tell them with love to check us out on the When All Hell Breaks Loose podcast. That's WAHBL podcast. That's WAHBL podcast. Go check us out, subscribe, like on all the social channels, and know that life is worth living, and so are you. Y'all be blessed.